You're watching All 24 News World News Program. To the headlines. Algeria mourns former President Liamine Zeroual. President Tebboune joins final respects while the nation observes the mourning. We also look back at Zeroual's unifying and distinguished legacy. Iran strikes U.S. and Zionist targets as Pentagon readies ground ops. Tehran accuses Washington of secret plans while Houthis hit key Israeli occupation sites. Iran weighs quitting the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. The UK must send in a minesweeper into the Strait of Hormuz, and Algeria urges de-escalation and diplomacy to resolve the crisis. And later on, Zionist raids kill 51 in southern Lebanon, targeting health facilities, and Algeria warns against repeating Palestinian-style crimes. Welcome back. First up in our news tonight, the nation continues to pay its final respects to former President and Mujahid Liamine Zeroual, who passed away Saturday at the age of 84. At the nation's palace in Algiers, senior officials, veterans, political figures, and citizens gathered to honor Zeroual's memory, reciting the opening chapter of the Quran. Officers of the People's National Army carried his body trapped in the national flag for a final viewing. Members of the diplomatic corps also offered condolences. The Algerian presidency confirmed Zeroual will be laid to rest Monday after the noon prayer in his hometown of Bkhdemة, eastern Algeria. On Sunday, at the nation's palace in Algiers, President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, paid his final respects to former President and freedom fighter Liamine Zeroual, accompanied by Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Army Chief of Staff General Said Shingriha. President Abdelmajid Tebboune signed the Book of Condolences. Earlier on Sunday, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune visited Mohammed Saghir Naqash Military Hospital in Algiers to pay respects to former President and veteran freedom fighter Liamine Zeroual. He also offered condolences to Zeroual's family and relatives. Mourning swept Algerian cities following the death of former President Liamine Zeroual. In Algiers, the national flag flew at half-mast across the government buildings, parliament, and main streets. Algerian embassies and consulates worldwide also lowered their flags as the presidency declared 3 days of national mourning starting Sunday. With the passing of Liamine Zeroual, Algeria loses a leader who shaped a pivotal era and embodied commitment to the nation. Renowned for his sovereign stances, he defended Algeria's independence in both international affairs and economic policy. More on this story with Zahra Farjani.
At a time when Algeria was going through one of its most difficult periods, a name emerged quietly, yet left a lasting mark on the nation's history. Liamine Zeroual, a president who chose to serve in silence and step away just as quietly. Born in 1941 in the rugged Ores mountains of eastern Algeria, Zeroual developed a strong and resilient character early on. As a young man, he answered the call of independent struggle and rose through the ranks of the National People's Army, earning a reputation for discipline and professionalism while taking part in Algeria's fight for freedom. On January 31, 1994, Zeroual was appointed head of state and minister of national defense by the High Security Council. He was later elected president of Algeria on November 16, 1995. During his presidency, he worked to restore constitutional legitimacy, most notably through the 1996 constitutional referendum, which led to the creation of the upper house of parliament, the Council of the Nation. Zeroual also helped rebuild state institutions through the legislative elections of June 1997 and the local elections later that October. In September 1998, Zeroual made the unexpected decision to shorten his term and called for early presidential elections, stepping down on April 27, 1999. After leaving office, he withdrew from political life, remaining a symbol of integrity, humility, and quiet leadership, a name that comes up whenever true responsibility and sincerity are remembered. Liamine Zeroual is not just a former president, but a chapter in Algeria's history written with wisdom, restraint, and dedication.
Moving on to the war in the Middle East, Iranian media report multiple casualties from U.S. and Zionist strikes. Mehr news agency says 5 were killed and 4 wounded in residential area in southwestern Iran on Sunday. Fars news agency confirms another attack on Bandar Khamir's seaport in Hormuzgan province, leaving 5 dead and 4 injured. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard announced it targeted Zionist military sites in occupied Palestine and U.S. bases across the region as part of the 87th missile wave of Operation True Promise 4. Missiles strike bases in Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Jordan. In occupied Palestine, strikes hit bunkers in Tel Arad and Omar Ashrash and a military complex in Be'er Sabah, forcing closures and evacuations. Sirens blared over 40 times as explosions shook occupied Jaffa. The Pentagon is reportedly preparing for potential ground operations inside Iran, which could last weeks, according to the Washington Post. Plans would involve special forces and regular troops, though it's unclear if President Donald Trump will authorize deployment. Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command confirmed the USS Tripoli has arrived in the region with roughly 3,500 Marines on board. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf accused Washington of sending false signals of negotiation while planning for a ground attack. Speaking Sunday on state TV, Ghalibaf said the Middle East conflict has reached a critical point, warning that Iranian forces are ready for U.S. troops and regional partners. He added that attempts to target the Strait of Hormuz and overthrow the regime have met fierce resistance, proving Tehran will never submit.
The enemy publicly sends messages of negotiation and dialogue while secretly planning a ground attack. The Americans seek to force us into surrender, but our response will be clear. We will never submit. Our missiles are ready and our capabilities remain strong, and we see fear among enemy forces. Our enemies send mixed signals about negotiations, while the United States puts forward its own ambitions. The war has reached one of its most sensitive moments. The enemy, which once planned to overthrow Iran's system, has now made opening the Strait of Hormuz a key objective. We are in a major global war and must prepare ourselves to reach its peak. We will turn this war into a lesson for any aggressor and will emerge from it only victorious.
Iraq reports casualties from U.S. and Zionist strikes. The Interior Ministry said 1 officer and a police commissioner were killed and 5 others wounded in a U.S. attack on a checkpoint in northern Mosul. The Popular Mobilization Forces confirmed strikes on their positions in Nineveh and Kirkuk provinces, leaving 3 dead and 4 wounded. The Gulf faced multiple Iranian missile and drone attacks over the weekend. The UAE Defense Ministry said it intercepted strikes targeting several areas, including the Imal aluminum plant linked to U.S. military operations. Kuwait shot down missiles and 4 drones after 3 attack waves, while Bahrain intercepted missiles and 6 drones. Aluminum facilities were hit, injuring 2 workers and causing major damage to plants that produce nearly 9% of the world's aluminum. The Yemeni Houthi group announced new attacks on vital targets in southern occupied Palestine using cruise missiles and drones. Spokesman Yahya Sariyah said his second operation on Saturday evening successfully hit its objectives and vowed continued operations in the coming days. In another matter, Iran is reportedly considering withdrawing from the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, according to Tasnim news agency. Parliament and other institutions are debating the move, which Tehran says is aimed at halting American and Zionist espionage under the guise of the IAEA inspections. Officials stress it does not signal a nuclear weapons program. The United Kingdom plans to send a ship to the Strait of Hormuz to detect mines, The Times reports. Defense Secretary John Haley has approved deploying HMS Lime Bay equipped with mine detection drones to the strategic waterway. Iran has agreed to let more than 20 partnership Pakistani ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz, with 2 vessels transiting daily, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said. Dar called the move a step toward peace and stability in the region as Pakistan continues regional diplomatic efforts. Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf took part Sunday in the Arab League's 165th ministerial session on the Middle East military escalation and its regional risks. In his address via video conference, Attaf reaffirmed Algeria's solidarity with Arab states hit by Iran and stressed the country's principled stance in line with President Tebboun's ongoing engagement with Arab leaders.
I begin my address with a heartfelt expression of solidarity to our brotherly Arab nations affected by the unjustified and unacceptable Iranian military attacks within the context of the dangerous military escalation unfolding in the Middle East. This stance consistently expressed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to his brothers, their Majesties, Excellencies, and Highness in the Arab state impacted by this escalation transcends mere circumstantial or immediate considerations. This commitment has been reinforced by the President's dedication to maintaining constant and regular communication with his Arab brothers and counterparts during this critical juncture in the history of the Middle East and the Arab world as a whole.
Minister Attaf called on all parties to abandon escalation and military force, urging dialogue and diplomacy to resolve disputes and spare the region from catastrophic consequences.
Yesterday marked the end of the first month of this dangerous military escalation in the Middle East amidst growing threats of its intensification and expansion. Simultaneously, signs of de-escalation are emerging, which, although weak and limited, we hope will soon prevail. In this context, Algeria reiterates its call to the conflicting parties to abandon the approach of escalation and military force and to prioritize dialogue and diplomacy to resolve all disputes in all their diversity, sensitivity, and complexity.
Millions across the United States joined No Kings protests Saturday, rejecting President Donald Trump's policies and the war on Iran. Demonstrations took place in over 3,100 locations nationwide, including Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago, with protesters calling for an end to the U.S. Zionist attacks on Iran.
Sending billions of dollars for a For what? I don't know. And people in Gaza are suffering and being treated like dirt. People in Iran, all the innocent people being killed.
A lot of people realize that. The people in uniform who feel that this is not our war, this is not a war that's winnable, begun to see the consequences. These disruptions are going to take decades to overcome. Already we are destabilizing the global economy.
In southern Lebanon, Israeli occupation attacks on health facilities have left dozens dead and many wounded. Airstrikes hit two centers near Bin Jbil Hospital in Nabatia and towns including Hania, Joya, and Shakra, killing at least 51 health workers and injuring others. Two paramedics were among the victims. Since March 2nd, 126 health personnel have died while on duty. 75 attacks have damaged vital infrastructure, disrupted essential services, and blocked access to care. Humanitarian authorities called for an immediate halt to the strikes and violations of international law. Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf condemned the ongoing Zionist attacks on Lebanon, warning against attempts by the Zionist occupation to replicate its crimes against the Palestinian people. He made the remarks during the Arab League Council's ministerial session.
Amid this feverish and accelerating escalation, we cannot turn a blind eye to our sister nation Lebanon, as it is subjected to a brutal Israeli military aggression, attempting to replicate in Lebanon the crimes it has committed and continues to commit against the Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza. Our hearts are also with our brothers and sisters in Iraq, as they face military attacks from all the conflicting parties in the region.
Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf stressed that denying Palestinian national rights remains the main source of regional instability. He said lasting peace and security cannot be achieved without proper attention and action on the Palestinian issue. Let's take a listen again.
Likewise, this escalation should not distract us from our central cause, the Palestinian cause, and the Palestinian people continue to suffer the violations of the Israel occupation and the escalating crimes of its settlers and its restriction of humanitarian relief efforts. The Palestinian issue remains throughout the course of events and their succession the core of the conflict in the Middle East. The denial of Palestinian national rights remains the primary cause of the region's instability and insecurity. Our conviction remains firm that escaping the cycle of violence, insecurity and instability in the region will not be achieved unless the Palestinian cause is given the care, follow-up and attention it deserves.
In occupied Palestine, at least 8 people were killed and several others wounded Sunday in Zionist occupation attacks on Khan Yunis, southern Gaza Strip, violating the ceasefire again. Airstrikes on 2 police stations killed 6, including 3 officers, and 3 displaced civilians, 1 a girl. A child was also killed and another person died from wounds sustained the previous night. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf arrived in Zagreb Sunday evening for an official visit at the request of President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The visit aims to strengthen political dialogue and economic cooperation with Croatia. Attaf is set to meet his counterpart Gordon Grlic-Redman and other senior officials. Algeria and India praised the positive momentum in their bilateral relations Sunday following Indian President Dr. Draupadi Murmu's visit to Algiers in October 2024. During the 7th session of political consultations, co-chaired by Algerian Secretary General Wines Maghraman and Indian Secretary of State Nina Malhotra, both sides discussed elevating the strategic partnership and exchanged views on regional and international issues. Algeria is hosting the first Pan-African Summit on Communications and Technology, marking a key step in its strategy to become a technological and political hub for the continent. Karim Mustafa has the details.
5,000 participants from 45 countries are gathering in Algiers for Global Africa Tech 2026, a 3-day continental event aimed at building an integrated, sovereign and resilient African telecommunications architecture driven by the convergence of terrestrial, space and maritime networks.
Sea, land, air.
By hosting this major summit, Algiers positions itself as a key platform to strengthen inter-African cooperations and marks the beginning of a new digital era.
Cet événement est tellement important.
This event is so important for Algeria for many reasons. First and foremost, it positions Algeria today by providing accurate information regarding the progress of telecommunications integration in this vast country.
Dans ce immense pays qui est l'Algérie.
Many leading national and international companies from the technology and telecommunications sector were participating in this continental event, among them SES Satellite, one of the world's largest satellite operators.
This event is important because it helps us to be close to our customers in North Africa, but also the whole continent. And Algeria is located in between Europe, Mediterranean and MENA region, so it's a great geographical location, so it's an opportunity to meet all our partners here in this forum.
On the sidelines of this forum, Algeria Telecom Satellite has renewed its commitment to supporting sovereign, comprehensive and sustainable connectivity that contributes to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN.
This is an opportunity to present our experiences and those of Algerian telecommunications in general, and satellite technology in particular. Over the next few days, we will be presenting several solutions, some specifically designed for Algeria and others that we can utilize, whose performance would benefit African countries.
Global Africa Tech 2026, a decisive turning point for African digital technology in Algeria. Africa unite to build an interconnected continent and take control of its digital future.
And now the news in brief.
The International Conference Against Fascism for Sovereignty of Peoples called for ending the Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara, held in Porto Alegre, Brazil, with participants from over 40 countries. It emphasized joint efforts to fight repression and support democracy.
In Spain, police dismantled a major drug trafficking network smuggling hashish from Morocco into Europe. Authorities uncovered a tunnel in Ceuta used for trafficking across the Strait of Gibraltar. 16 suspects were arrested, with 15 tons of hashish and 1.5 million euros seized.
In Sudan, at least 14 people, including 5 children, were killed in artillery shelling in Dilling. The attack, attributed to the Rapid Support Forces and allied groups, struck residential areas amid worsening humanitarian conditions.
A Ukrainian drone strike damaged the oil export terminal at Ust-Luga in Russia, triggering a fire. The port is a key hub handling hundreds of thousands of barrels daily. Meanwhile, Ukraine reported targeting a major oil refinery in Yaroslav. Russia's defense ministry said its forces captured a settlement in the Kharkiv region and intercepted multiple Ukrainian drones and guided bombs.
The Algerian national team resumed training ahead of a friendly match against Uruguay at Juventus Training Center in Vinovo, Turin, after a 7-0 win over Guatemala on Friday. This session, led by coach Vladimir Petkovic, took place in high spirits, reflecting strong readiness to continue their positive run.
Algeria is preparing to revive its annual cycling tradition by hosting the 26th Tour of Algeria, with participation from 20 countries. The race will run from Oran to Tizi Ouzou, crossing 13 provinces from April 17th to 26th, and is part of the international and African cycling calendars.
That's all for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Do take care.